Hi, Wayne.
Hello, how are you doing?
All good, all good. And you?
Good, good. I'm good, thank you. Got one more. Just gonna give it another minute, everyone, and then we'll get started. A couple of people joining still, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think let us get started, and if anyone else joins, I'll just let them in as we go along. So, yeah. So first of all, just from Robs and I, thanks for reaching out to us and showing interest in what we do at the APA. As luck would have it, it was a free day here in Delhi with the team, but they decided to organize a team event. So I'm sitting in the car at the moment. So if there is a little bit of noise, I do apologize, but I needed to make a plan so I can actually be at the meeting. So I'm sitting in the car while everyone else is having dinner. So we can get this meeting going. But yeah, so from Rob's and my side, thank you very much for joining. It's an open discussion, and one thing that Robs and I pride ourselves on is challenging each other. So we hope in this meeting or in this chat that we can challenge you to think maybe a little bit differently, and also just to challenge yourself to maybe think of things in a different way, or make things just see things from what we look at things as well. But yeah, so Rob's going to take over from here, then I will join in as we go along. But as I said, it's relatively informal. You guys are here, we've seen all the questions that you sent through, but the more interaction we have from you guys, the better it will be for the whole hour or so that we'll be together. Okay, Rob's, you go for it.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Hi, guys. Again, just to reiterate what Wayne has said, it's a pleasure, honor, really, for us to host this and have everyone with us today. And basically, the whole concept has been born out from interest from coaches like you guys. So we hope that we can sort of deliver today, but it's not only about today, it's also about the longer term relationship that we hope that we can build with you guys as well. As Wayne said, it's going to be hopefully a little bit more informal. We'll start with a couple of slides and thoughts from our side, but then we do want to try and open it up a little bit more to you guys to ask questions and engage. Like we said in the communication before, it's basically completely open from our side, so we want you guys to open up from your side as well. To start off with, Athlete Performance Authority basically was a concept that was born out of discussions that Wayne and I had together in 2015. And a lot of those discussions were around a lot of the same type of questions that we have been getting from other coaches around how do we get ourselves from where we were at the time to places that we were seeing other coaches at. And those places were sort of with international teams, going to World Cups, going to Olympic Games, sort of in the bigger leagues that we sort of always aspired to be in. But at the time, we weren't necessarily there. So that was sort of 8 years ago where Wayne and I were having the same type of conversations and discussions and questions. So that's basically how Athlete Performance Authority was born. And over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, we've had not a lot of free time, zero free time actually, but we've had time to sort of reflect and ask ourselves slightly different type of questions, and also to just sort of reset, see where we've come from, where we currently are, and where we still want to go. Another big thing around Athlete Performance Authority is continual improvement. and it's been an opportunity for Wayne and myself to ask slightly different questions, and just reflect on where we come from. We also get caught up a lot of the time in being busy, and not necessarily always appreciating where we currently are. And I think that was what we wanted to get across in the messaging that we did on Instagram, is not necessarily to expose ourselves and tell everyone that that we've done so many things, but more so just as a reflection point for ourselves, because both of us have come from very similar situations to what a lot of other people will be finding themselves in. And that situation is coming from a very small town, a very small part of South Africa, where it's not always very common for people to come into sort of high-performing environments. But what we wanted to get across was that your PIN code or postcode, wherever you come from, shouldn't necessarily blunt your goals and ambitions. And for Wayne and I, it's always been a sort of a motivating factor. Although we've come from a smaller part of South Africa, not as many opportunities as other people, we wanted to prove that theory wrong. And I think that's what a lot of you guys have maybe resonated in as well, in terms of the story that we put out there. So just a little bit of background on Athlete Performance Authority. A lot of our messaging initially we wanted to get out was also around the simplicity of what we were doing from a programming prescription point of view, in that we wanted to keep things simple and keep the main thing around focusing on athletes and getting athletes better at being athletes, and not necessarily getting distracted by all the other things that we find ourselves engaging in today's world. So that's where we came up with the sort of motto of building better athletes. But I think, as I said before, over the last 12 to 18 months, we've had time to reflect, and also had a lot of engagement from different coaches, and started recognizing the opportunity that although we want to keep the messaging around athletes, there's also a big opportunity for us to move into the space of helping other coaches. And I think that's where we are today, and sort of the start of an expansion or a growth aspect of Athlete Performance Authority. So you guys are sort of the first people to know about it, but also to obviously engage in that type of expansion from Athlete Performance Authority. So that's where we are today in terms of still wanting to build those better athletes, but also wanting to build competent coaches. And today is the sort of start of it, but there will be more things coming to that part of the company of Athlete Performance Authority, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. Okay, so we thought we'd just start very briefly to give an overview of our high performance journey again, just as a resetter, because we do want to ask a couple of questions from our side to you guys. So just to refresh the story basically from my side, where I've come from and where I currently am, and maybe just give a couple of sort of defining moments along the way that I think have helped me develop some of my philosophies, or helped me get to where I am today. As I mentioned, and I think it's an important thing for me, because I did come from a very small place. I actually grew up on a safari park in the eastern parts of South Africa, where the nearest grocery store was more than 4 hours away. So that was sort of my life growing up until I was about 12 or 13 years old. There wasn't a lot of exposure to sort of, high performance environments as we term them today. Although any environment can be high performance, it was slightly different to what we think high performance is. But what I didn't do, I don't think, is let that sort of upbringing blunt my ambition of where I wanted to go. In fact, I think it actually inspired me a little bit more to prove to myself firstly, but to a lot of other people that it can still be done. So that's where I came from. And fast forwarding a couple of years, I went through my initial education at Stellenbosch University, where I did a sports science degree and honors in biokinetics, and then moved to the CISA High Performance Center in Cape Town to do my internship. and we'll speak about the importance of the Sports Science Institute in South Africa for both Wayne and myself. But while I was there, I started to enroll for my master's degree at UCT, to do a master's in biokinetics, which I completed at UCT, continued working at the High Performance Centre, but at the same time also started to volunteer at the University of Cape Town's rugby club, starting with the under-20s, where I said in my messaging before, I was only the assistant to the current S&C coach at the time, where I would literally just help putting out cones, picking up cones for the warm-up and cool-down. That's where I started. And I continued doing that for a season before I got promoted to the head of S&C for the under-20s team. I did that for a season and then got promoted to the first team Ike Tigers, where we competed in the Varsity Cup, and did that for 2.5 seasons, and was lucky enough to win the 2014 Varsity Cup, which was for me quite a big or significant turning point in my career. I think at the time I didn't actually really see it as a career, to be honest. It was something that I started doing out of passion, something that I was really interested in at the time and wanted to see where I could go, but never really saw the progression from there. I think it was just something that happened. But the catalyst for me, I think, was winning the 2014 Varsity Cup final in extraordinary circumstances, and then also being able to follow that up in the 2015 season, where we again did very well in terms of where we ended up in the tournament. But one sort of defining moment in that campaign was my very first training session during pre-season. It was obviously a phase where it was a very much of a block approach, and conditioning was the main focus for the beginning of the pre-season period. It was about a 4-week block, I think, where conditioning was the primary focus, and it was my first real job, head of S&C for the Ike Tigers, and we had a former Springbok who was part of the coaching team, and he wasn't involved in the session because it wasn't technical stuff, but he came down to watch the session, and after the session he came up to me straight away. I don't even think we'd hardly finished, and he came up to me straight away and he started going at me in my face, quite aggressively, saying, "What is this? This is a joke. This is not how we do it," type of thing. And I mean, his reference point was obviously something different. He had been in a different environment, maybe under different circumstances. He maybe didn't understand, our starting point. But I think what I did quite well was that in that moment, I obviously stayed calm, and I also managed to turn him around from what his initial confrontation was to him eventually actually understanding what the process was within the space of like 10 minutes, and managed to leave the field at the end of the day or end of that session, in a comfortable position. But what it really did make me do, I grew in that moment, because it was obviously a big figure that came up and questioned me very early on. But what I think helped me a lot was that my preparation and programming and thought processes was all, in my head, really well thought out and really well planned. And I think I could get that across to him, and he could see that, there was something behind what I had just done with the boys, and not just rock up and do something. And I think that stuck with me the whole way through my career, is just always knowing why you're doing what, because anyone can and has the right to come and question what you're doing. But as long as you can give them an answer, they're generally going to, respect you for that. So from that moment on, again, I just made 100% sure that one, communication was very clear to coaches, but also that my planning was spot on. From the Ike Tigers, I got then approached by the Pumas, the Mpumalanga Pumas, which is a Currie Cup team in South Africa, Premier Division senior rugby, which was a big step for me. It was my first fully professional contract with the Currie Cup team, and I was still at quite a young age at the time. So for me, it was, again, a big step up. But again, a big learning process along the way. It was going into a different culture, and again, got challenged quite a lot. But I think by the time by the time I left, I got approached by Hockey India to move over to India and work in an international environment. And the interesting part, I think, between that transition was that I had the decision to make between leaving sort of a senior setup in a Currie Cup tournament, which was the premier division in the country, moving for an opportunity in India, which is obviously a completely different language, different culture to what I was coming from. And I'd also been offered the position of the under-21s strength and conditioning coach. So it wasn't obviously senior level, which is what I wanted, but I could see the opportunity, of course. And although I took the position with Hockey India because I wanted to go to the Olympics, I knew if I stayed with the under-21s, I wouldn't go to the Olympics. But I could see that if I did take it and I did a good enough job, I was confident to myself that by the end of the 4 years, I would be in a position to go to the Olympics with the senior men's team. And I think the messaging around that is obviously taking a risk in terms of opportunities that do come your way, but then obviously being confident in yourself to be able to deliver once you take those opportunities as well. Moving on from India, I got an opportunity to move to Germany and move into the Olympic sort of setup in Germany and head up the SNC for their rugby sevens team. It's always been a career progression for me to try and get into international rugby sevens, work with the team on the World Series circuit. And I think at the time seemed like it could move into that opportunity. I could spend a little bit of time in terms of building up my experience with the sevens team, being comfortable working in a different sport again in a different environment. And although I didn't stay for very long, it was because another opportunity came my way, and that was to move into the Germany field hockey team. And that's where I find myself today. So that's just a brief sort of summary of my journey. I'll let Wayne take over now and then maybe speak a little bit more about the High Performance Centre in terms of the role it's played in both Wayne and myself's journey. Wayne?
Yep. So thanks, Rob. Just for everyone that's just joined, so welcome. As I mentioned to everyone that joined early, was that my circumstances changed a bit, so I'm sitting in a class. If there's a bit of disturbance in the background, I apologize for that. But yeah, my journey is very similar to what Rob's has said. So both our careers really started at Sports Science Institute. So I started at Sports Science Institute as an intern. When you do your honours in biokinetics in South Africa, you have to do 1 year internship. And you can get placed anywhere pretty much. You apply for a few positions, and then wherever you get in, you'll do your internship. So you do 1 year internship at the placement that you get accepted to. After that, I was very lucky to be offered a full-time position at the High Performance Centre. So Rob's has mentioned already the importance that we feel mentorship plays. And at the High Performance Centre, because I was a junior coming into the system, we had a really good manager who was an excellent mentor for me, not necessarily from a strength and conditioning, high performance training perspective, but more from a humanistic perspective, if I can put it that way. He really taught me how to deal with a team environment from a high performance team perspective, the integrative multidisciplinary team environment. He allowed us to express ourselves as high performance practitioners, if we can call it that. So although he won't set certain standards, he never micromanaged us at all. He allowed us to actually put our own mark out there in the Sports Science Institute. And I think that makes a big difference as a leader. If you are leading a team, in my opinion, I think if we're micromanaging, we don't actually teach anyone anything. And from the Sports Science Institute perspective with Justin, his name's Justin Durant, he really taught us how to manage people really well. And then within the institute, we obviously had the likes of Prof. Tim Noakes. I think everyone knows. There's some controversial views that he's got at the moment, but ultimately he is the founder of sports science within South Africa and sports medicine within South Africa, so he's someone to look up to. So in one building, we are able to have multiple practitioners that we can look up to, not only from a clinical perspective, but also from a research and education perspective within UCT. So the Sports Science Institute for us played a massive role in, like a central role in building us as practitioners, and from there we were lucky enough to actually extend into different environments and so on and so forth, like Robin has said. So not only the mentorship do we find important, but it's taking the opportunities that come your way. A lot of times when I speak to young SNCs or performance practitioners or physios or whoever it might be that are looking for opportunities, the common answer I get is that it wasn't the right time. Unfortunately, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it will ever be a right time for a move, but you have to take that opportunity. So for me, my opportunity came, I was in a senior position at Sports Science at the High Performance Center, and about halfway through my 5th year, an opportunity came up in China. And as you know, high performance environments in China can be very, very hostile. I've already been going back and forth for a year or so, but then eventually they asked me if I would come over full time. So I handed in my resignation from a full-time position to something that was more contractual on a monthly basis. So I think that was one of the turning points in my career, because I took the risk, went to another country where there's almost zero English. So it really, from a coaching perspective, you have to be on your game, because to be able to coach there, you really have to demonstrate really well and understand the people and how they actually communicate from a non-verbal perspective. And then the other turning point in my career, and I don't really tell the story too often, is but it was about 10 months into my stint there, I flew back for actually Robin's brother's wedding, and upon my return they actually had terminated my contract without me even knowing. So I think that those sort of turning points in your career, because at that point when I got back and the coach had told me, listen, that's no longer going to happen, so I had to return back to South Africa within a week or so from there. Those sort of things happened for a reason. At the time I didn't know what that reason was, and I still don't actually know what the reason was today, but I think it actually grew, it allowed me to grow as not only as a practitioner, as a human being, and how to deal with adversity within our job environment, and understanding how hostile high performance environments can be. And lucky enough, I came back to South Africa. I never ever checked Facebook Messenger. For some reason I checked Facebook Messenger, and I had a message in my inbox asking if I would go over to India to what is now Inspire Institute of Sport, and we got one practitioner already from Inspire. So I was offered to come over as head of S&C there. So it just shows you that, yeah, you're going to take risks, and sometimes those risks maybe don't pay off, but there must be a reason to certain things that happen in your career. And if you don't take those risks, I think you might look back and think, okay, you'll never know what could have happened if you didn't actually take that risk. I could have still been working today at Sports Science Institute. That was a very secure job, but if I didn't take that risk, I probably wouldn't be where I am sitting right now. So I think that's a big learning curve, is the mentorship, and as well as taking opportunities when they come, for me, is a really, really important thing. So from Inspire Institute of Sport, I went over to Hockey India, worked with the senior women's team there until post-Olympics. During that time, obviously, we were working at building APA quite a bit, and then I started consulting for Japan Rugby at the same time, the Sevens, from about a year out from the Olympics, just helping them set up their high performance structures. At the same time, joined Lakshan Academy as a consultant and head of sports science and medicine, which I'm still busy doing at the moment. After Hockey India, after the Olympics finished, I resigned from that position and went back to South Africa. I just felt that it was the right time to move on. Then from there, started consulting with the South African women's hockey team, Delhi Capitals, Pretoria Capitals, the IPL, the WPL, and various other institutes like UCT. I still do some guest lecturing there, and then I do guest lecturing for Canberra University on their Masters of S&C course over there. So you can see the pathway that Robs and I followed is fairly similar, but ultimately I think if the message I'd like to get across is find yourself a really good mentor. If you can find yourself a good mentor and you take a risk when it comes, or an opportunity when it comes, I think you never know what might come of that opportunity. Even if that specific opportunity doesn't end up being what you think it would be, what comes from those opportunities later on, you never actually know. So as soon as we're comfortable in our environment, and hopefully from this discussion that we have, and once you guys start asking questions, you'll see one thing that's big for us is a growth mindset. And I think taking those opportunities and taking those risks is a growth mindset that we would like to get across to you guys. Cool.
Yeah, perfect. I think it's enough talking from us. It is a Q&A, so we do want to get you guys involved as well. So what we want to do next is ask a couple of questions. We'll pose questions, but then we want you guys to unmute yourselves. If you can, turn on your cameras as well, that would be great. But we want to ask the question of where have you identified yourself in the story that we have spoken about from Wayne's perspective and my perspective. And that question is just basically meaning like you guys sort of resonated with the story that we put out on Instagram, and have obviously have hopefully resonated again through maybe us sharing the story again. But you might see yourself sort of at the beginning of the journey when we were starting out through studies or starting our careers at the High Performance Centre at UCT Rugby, where we were volunteering. You might be in your first job. You might have been doing your job for a couple of years already. You might have your master's, PhD. You might be a consultant. But we just want you guys to, we want to hear or have feedback where you've identified yourself in our stories. But at the same time, just open up your mic, introduce yourself by name to the rest of the community that's on here today, where you're currently working, what your current interests are. So whether you're in strength and power development, more rehabilitation, if you're a physiotherapist, whatever the case is. And then also we'd like to ask a question of why have you chosen us as APA to try and invest in terms of trying to grow yourself as a coach as well. So I think I'll let Wayne open it up, or maybe choose the first guy to speak.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just go through the list. I'm not picking on anyone, but Ashish, you first on the list. If you don't mind, you unmute yourself and give yourself a little bit of introduction.
Hi guys, first of all, thank you for such a wonderful journey of sharing you guys your stories. I would like to introduce myself. So basically, my name is Ashish Jaiswal. I was working in Bangalore. Just 1 month back, I left the job and I'm looking for more opportunities. So I worked with initially 3 sports like tennis, cricket and basketball, and looking forward to explore more sports before I decide my one sport. So my goal today was joining to this webinar was to learn from your mistakes, basically the mistake which you have done, so that I shouldn't repeat that and I should save my 10 years or 12 years from your experience. That is my whole purpose of joining this today's webinar.
Perfect. Thank you. Sunil, can you mute yourself? Well, I'm going to mute you for now. Mute. Chance, do you mind taking us through? So Chandini worked with me at Pretoria Capital, so it's nice to have Chandini on. You just unmute yourself there, Chance. Chance, can you hear me? Yeah, there we go. Go.
Yeah. So you want me to first ask my question?
Yeah, you can go. Yep.
So as we have worked together in Pretoria Capitals, I could see you working, and as you say that as a background, like you people have done quite a lot in rehab also. So I could see a very good combination in you, rehab plus SNC. So that inspired me, and it has been my interest previously also strength and conditioning, because strength and conditioning I see as a preventive measure for any injury. So if any athlete comes after injury happens to us, we want to address them before. Like if the fitness, strength and conditioning, everything is in place, and there are very, very less chances of injury. And I myself is quite passionate about strength and conditioning, the concept of that, doing for myself and for athletes. So I was thinking of pursuing some course where I can become a strength and conditioning therapist, but coach. Yeah. So now when you people have actually initiated this building better coaches, so I thought of getting used to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Gareth, do you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, sure. How's it, guys? Thanks so much for having us, first of all. I think, firstly, where I identify myself, also having been a South African, so it's really cool to see some guys out on the main stage, really awesome. And one of the reasons why I sort of, when I saw this has resonated, is I actually applied for a job quite recently, and having found out afterwards, they said, "Listen, great, everything's cool, but you know your knowledge base, you need someone or or a company or someone to be a mentor." So I've sort of started to look out, and you know, there's no harm in trying to gain as much information as possible. So I found myself in the strength and conditioning and sports science side of things at the moment. I work for a school here in Victoria in South Africa, and it's really a big, broad base of sports. Sports in South Africa, we do a lot. So I'm actually mainly in charge of basketball and hockey. Done a bit of provincial work, a little bit of help with under 21s and national under 21s as well with our coach here. But basically, at the moment, where I'm at is actually just trying to broaden that base and just gathering some feedback from that interview that I got. So yeah, that's why I found myself here.
Awesome.
So, thanks, man.
Awesome. That's exciting. Nice. Well done. Garang, do you mind having a little chat with us? Sorry
Hello.
if I
Hi,
didn't pronounce it
everyone.
well.
So, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
So, basically, my background is from athletics. I've been a sprinter for like 17, 18 years. I have a national gold 100, represented India also at junior level. So that is how I got interested in this field of sports science. And I've been working as a SNC since 2019. And my first big project was working with Amit Salawaz in Pro Kabaddi League, which I did in 2021. And after that, since March 2022, I've been doing freelancing in Mumbai. Been working in Mumbai as a freelancer for 1 year now. And so actually I took a break because I was pursuing my master's through UCAM, which I'm almost done. Will be done in a month or so. But this is where I'm confused right now. Should I keep working in Mumbai and do freelancing, or should I look for opportunity in an organization or something? My major problem being I've been lucky enough to get access to elite players in Mumbai as well. There's a lot of sports badminton players who are good prospects as an Asian Games contingent player in Indian team. So that is where my confusion lies currently.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Karen. So Karen's actually been one of our athletes that's done one of our programs before, so it's awesome to have Karen online as well. So Karen, do you mind having a chat to us? Just need to unmute yourself. You still on mute? Yeah,
Right.
there we go. Cool.
Okay. My name is Karen, and I started off my career as an investment banker. I did that for about 9 years or so before I moved into sport. I started running a lot and became quite an accomplished long distance runner in the amateur category in India. But I really like strength and conditioning, and I'm also training students as well here between the ages of 8 to 15. Now, I lack a background in sports science and in physiology and things like that. So I find that sometimes a struggle to train kids without the background, the background that you guys have. So that I learn from you guys as much as I possibly can, get resources and learn as much as I can.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Neelam?
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Neelam Patel. I'm a sports physiotherapist in Mumbai. I've been currently assigned as the sports physiotherapist for the under 20 football women's team. And I've been freelancing and I have my own setup in Mumbai. But I've always been, the reason why I resonated with your webinar is there's a lot of confusion between me pursuing an MS in biomechanics, strength and conditioning and exercise physiology, because they all kind of somewhere overlap, and we do have a background of prevention and rehabilitation. So somewhere I feel that I need to have more of a mentorship so that I have a clear path with regards to treating injuries and having better performance in regards to my athletes. So that's the reason why I opted for the webinar. And
Awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Ranjit?
Hi Wayne, hi Robin, hi everyone. Good evening everyone. Thanks for including me on this call. My name is Ranjit Nahak. I'm an engineer turned strength conditioning coach. Before I began my career in strength conditioning, I was a software engineer, and then I shifted to strength conditioning for general population, and then gradually moved to training athletes with Sports Authority of India, where I got an opportunity to train the national women's wrestling team, and then I trained the under 16 side hockey team, and something that I could relate what Wayne said some time back, that we need to take our chances. So last year in December, I got a chance to be part of a Indian Super League team, Northeast United FC, as a strength and conditioning coach. So I took that opportunity. So I'm currently working with the team and training for the Super Cup. So right now the Super Cup is ongoing. And the reason I'm part of this call, because like all of us know, Wayne and Robin, what you guys have done with the men's and women's team. The results are there to see for each one of us, and I look up to both of you as mentors, and have been following closely your career, and something, and I would like to follow that path and grow in my career. That's the reason I've been following you, and I'm on this call. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the kind words, Ranjit. Srinivas? You just need to unmute yourself, Srinivas. Yep. We can't hear you. Just check your mic. Okay, well, yep, now we can hear. Yep, now we can hear you. It's a bit broken up, but try.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Wayne, for arranging such a fantastic Q&A. I mean, I'm always looking forward to these things, meeting senior SNCs and meeting senior professionals from whom you can learn so much. And I totally resonate with your the stories that you shared. So my story is also similar. I'm an engineering dropout. So I have been working in the fitness industry for last 5 years. So I have a lot of experience with general population. Recently, from past 2 years, I'm working with a lot of athletes, and currently I'm working with YOS Sports Health. So on behalf of YOS, I'm working for one of the biggest cricket academies in India. The name is Just Cricket Academy. So there I'm working with all amateur, sub-elite and elite athletes from all national and international level. So the reason I joined the webinar is anyone else's reason in the those who are here in the audience.
Awesome.
So I want to learn more. I want to gain a perspective from you guys, which you have gained from your number of years of experience, and of course to upgrade my technical knowledge and to learn and take away whatever I can from you guys.
Awesome. Thanks.
That's it.
Perfect. We got 3 more. Sunil Kumar.
Hey, hi everyone.
Hey.
Thanks for coming this. Yeah, I'm Sunil. I'm working as SNC with the FCB Under 18 team in Bangalore, which is located in India. Yeah, the reason I have joined this webinar, like the people who have finished the certificate, right? Like ASCA, CSCS, and all, like people who can't afford to do the masters, all those stuff, right? Like I wanted to know from you guys, like how you guys are going to suggest to learn more.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
So I wanted to know. So I wanted to learn from you people, like how to learn stuff more, like you people.
Okay. Cool. No problem.
Yep.
Tanvi.
Hi everyone. Thank you for arranging this meeting. So basically, I'm Tanvi. I was an athlete myself. I was into athletics. I used to do 100-meter hurdles. For the past 1 year, I have been working as a strength and conditioning coach with the Odisha Hockey HPC. So basically, during the World Cup, I obviously came early for the warm-ups and everything. So I saw Robin working there, and I was just wondering, like, how do you reach there? How do you reach there? And so that is where I resonated with the Instagram story, is the journey basically from me being into the stands and my vision to be on the field where Robin was is something I aspire to be. And as you rightly said, what I lack, I think, right now with my journey is a good mentor. So I am looking forward for your mentorship.
Cool, nice. And last one,
thank you.
Vian. I think Vian, you're joining all the way from Oz, I think.
Oh, mate, it's almost 11 o'clock and I start in about 6 hours. So, hey guys, so my name is Vihan. I work in Perth, Western Australia. I work with WS Sports Performance. So it's a private sector athlete performance facility here. I've done work across multiple codes. So I've interned for WACA, Perth Glory, and Western Force Rugby. So basically 3 out of the 5 sports teams over here. Been in the environment and ended up in the private sector because obviously, as everyone knows over here, breaking into sports is always a challenge, no matter how much work you put in. I finished my master's 2 years ago now in SNC over here in Edith Cowan University. I just thought I'd jump in and see how about you guys are gonna head with this mentorship, because one thing I failed to do in the last 5 years is actually create that kind of a I don't know if bond is the right word, but definitely create that kind of relationship, a mentor relationship with anyone. Obviously, I work with great coaches. I work with good coaches. I work with Dan Barry and Gavin. You guys already know. At the same time, it is a bit of a crossroads at the moment to find a mentor-based relationship. So I guess it's more to see how you guys approach it and get an idea of it, basically.
Awesome. Well, thanks. So, guys, I think what's exciting to see is we've got a real wide range of people online at the moment. And one thing I just want to mention is that what we presented to you is what Rob's and I's journey is, and everyone's journey is going to be individual. So we can give you what our experiences are, but we'll also try and not explain where maybe your shortcomings are, but also just to understand that your journey is going to be very different to ours. So we can say this is how we went about it, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be how you guys are going to go about it. I think the mentorship thing is really important, finding whether it's at APA or whether it's outside in your private sectors, that you find yourselves a good mentor. That is important. But importantly, we want to give you an idea of how we did it, but that doesn't mean that's exactly how you can't go carbon copy it. So just to make it clear that we just giving you a journey that we went on, and we'll try and help you understand maybe where your shortcomings are and how to address those shortcomings as much as possible. Okay, so Robs.
Thanks guys, that was awesome. I think what I wanted to say as well, similar to what Wayne said, and what I've found sort of going through my journey in terms of being part of similar groups like this in different environments or different mentorship groups, is sort of utilizing and harnessing the power of the diversity in the group. So I think for the next, however long we're on for, next 45 minutes, 30 minutes, is to try and obviously listen as much as possible, but pick out things from different people that they've shared, and ask questions as well, and try and engage and see what you can learn from not only us but also other people as well. I think as soon as we start opening ourselves up a little bit more like that, and utilizing the power of the group as well, I think that's a massive thing. It's certainly something that I've tried to lean on quite a lot throughout my journey, and I think that was what was quite a powerful thing as well from our story in terms of going through the High Performance Center, was that we did get exposed to a lot of different environments, a lot of different coaches, a lot of different athletes, and a lot of different sports. And I think that exposure early on in our careers really, really helped us develop sort of our philosophies, but have that sort of like broad understanding of what it means to, be in a high performance environment, but work in different scenarios. And I think it's kind of shown in the journey that we've taken in terms of going from different sports in terms of rugby, rugby sevens, field hockey, cricket, and so on. Just to come back to Tanvi, thanks very much. That's a cool story. And that kind of resonates with me as well, because I remember sitting in the stands almost every Saturday watching the Stormers, which is a South African rugby team.